I have no problem with the employees here saying, what did you do last week? And if you can't come up with 5 things that you did, maybe you shouldn't be employed here. So again, this is an easy task. It happens in the private sector all the time.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy throwing his support behind Doge's latest push.
That's good.
For greater government accountability. Elon Musk now requiring federal workers.
Why is he dressed like this? This is so unnecessary. You do not need to do this. What is this?
Requiring federal workers to list 5 accomplishments from the past week. And if they do not respond to his email, they face losing their job. The deadline set for midnight tonight. Fox team coverage begins now.
I think that the reason why they're doing that, by the way, is so they can have grounds for dismissal by not following an official order. And it's actually not even about a actual temperature check. It's just so they can have one reason to remove people from their job without having to pay them any sort of severance or anything like that. That's the real reason.
With Kim Strassel on deck, but first, FBN's Hillary Vaughn live on Capitol Hill. What can you tell us
multiple reasons
about
but
this
that's
latest
one of
attempt
them.
by Doge to reduce waste?
Hi, John. Well, it's triggering a lot of people and it's hitting a nerve. While most Americans would love for an opportunity to brag to their boss about all the things that they got done last week, some people working for the government, paid for by taxpayers, working for taxpayers, think that they are too good for that. Democratic Senator Tina Smith attacking Musk over this, using her favorite D word, and it's not Democrat. Smith saying, quote, "This is the ultimate D-boss move from Musk, except he isn't even the boss. He's just a D." Musk said,
Ho's mad. Like, that's my opinion on this. Yeah, it's like, who gives a fuck, man? Like, she wants to get mad about this? Who cares?
he's already received a large number of responses and says those people should be considered for a promotion. Other Democrats say a CEO would never ask their workers to do this.
Imagine that
he did though, like, because he was a CEO of Twitter and he did that. So like that's not true because he.
This email tomorrow from your boss's 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 boss, who knows nothing about what you do. This would be like Tim Cook sending that email to every single Apple Store employee. If Tim Cook did that, we would say Tim is past his due date and doesn't know how to run a company anymore.
Well, it wouldn't make sense because half of them couldn't read it because they're in other countries that are manufacturing the products. So they wouldn't be able to explain it because they don't have access to computers in a lot of cases. And they live in warehouses where, you know, the conditions are very bad. And so it would make sense, right, that Tim Apple would not do that. I mean, I think that's kind of a bad example.
But Musk says this is not that complicated. It's a pulse check saying, quote, the reason this matters is that
it's so they can have a point of reference to fire them without any sort of severance or any sort of accountability. That's the reason why.
Significant number of people who are supposed to be working for the government are doing so little work that they are not checking their email at all. In some cases, we believe non-existent people or the identities of dead people are being used to collect paychecks. In other words, there is outright fraud. Republicans say this is a great idea.
Yeah.
The price tag that the taxpayers pay is right at $271 billion a year. Is it too much to ask for them to verify why they're making an average salary of $106,000 a year? I guess the arrogance of the workers who says that's a heavy lift is what's wrong with that's what the Americans are sick and tired of. It's not their money. We're the ones who are paying the bills.
And so
He's right. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Government employee unions are so upset about this that they're actually...
What are these people complaining about? I have to do performance reviews at my work and prove that my net worth. So what you have to understand about like this like American like culture is that there's always two sides of every issue. Nobody can just collectively agree. Like if Donald Trump came out and said that he liked ice cream, we would have to figure out reasons why ice cream was bad. And this is with every single issue in the entire culture. There have to be two sides to it. It makes you fat. Yeah, exactly, right?
Suing over the fact that Elon Musk wants them to tell him 5 things that they did this week. They filed a lawsuit in federal court in San Francisco over this email. John.
Well, Hillary, we don't need to ask you what you did last week because it's all caught on video.
That's true. Same with you,
Appreciate
John.
it. And we wouldn't need to ask because you do terrific work week in and week out. Hillary, thank you.
Oh,
Sandra?
thank you. That's nice.
All right, thank you, John. Let's bring in
gotta
Kim
get the other
Strassel
ones.
now, Fox News contributor and a Wall Street Journal opinion columnist. We're told that that meeting just wrapped. We'll have a play out for that shortly. With President Trump saying in that meeting he thinks the Doge email to federal workers, Kim, on their weekly duties is great. So he is standing by it and says the email
because
was
they know why they're doing it. Like, it's crazy for me to see so many people that don't understand that they're doing all these things with Doge. That's why they're putting them on administrative leave. They're basically trying to soft fire these people, and now they're looking for excuses to do it faster. That's the goal. That's what they're trying to do. It's a trap. It is.
to define workers who are not working. Are you for this, Kim?
You know, I think that's the important point here. If you're listening to Elon Musk and what we're discovering and a lot of things that he's saying is that the Doge team is finding that a great deal of the federal government seems to be on autopilot. So it's just trundling along and you don't really know where a lot of this money is going. And that doesn't just count for paychecks to federal
employees. It's crazy because, like, anybody knows that. Like, I never understood how we've been able to shift from them, like, here over here, and I think this is like all over the world. How many of you guys have a government that's run by a bunch of fucking lazy retards, and a lot of the people that work there don't do anything, like, that are not in America? Right? Yeah, exactly. Like, this is a problem all over the whole world. And it just a few months ago, a few years ago, this was a well and agreed upon opinion. Everybody knew this. It's every modern country. Yeah, of course.
Employees, but how many Social Security checks are going out to people who died a long time ago? How many tax credits are being dumped into bank accounts for people that don't qualify for that money anymore or themselves have passed away? And it seems that we do not have those quality control checks going on. So that to me is
somebody said that courts already blocked Doge from taking over the data of 2 government agencies. If you want government workers to be audited, audit them properly. What Elon is doing is not legal nor proper. While you have to go through the legal channels, I think that, again, I feel like the Thomas Sowell quote is very relevant, where it's like the most important thing for bureaucracy is not the outcome, but the process. I don't care about the process that you're using. I don't think average taxpayers care about your process. They just want this to happen. So don't go and try to make this like fucking moralistic argument because of some weird red. So like basically the argument is that your problem with the government having a lot of red tape can't be addressed because of red tape. Well, I don't think that's a very convincing argument.
More interesting part than the substance of this, which is name 5 things. By the way, I can name 5 things I did this morning, but that shouldn't be a tough lift. I think there could have been some more coordination that probably would have been useful so that everyone on the Trump team was on the same page on this, but it does seem like a worthy exercise.
Fair enough. I want to put a part of your Wall Street Journal column, a quote here on Trump's constitutional cleanup. You say the administration is courting lawsuits that could dismantle the Washington machine. These moves are unconventional. The president's role with the bureaucracy they are given, but hardly lawless. Progressive litigators may soon discover presidents have a lot of authority to manage employees and programs. Seen Sean Duffy.
I mean, I'm not like, I mean, nobody understands this as much as like these lawyers do. And so like, I can't really know. But what I can say is that I don't really have a lot of respect for the processes of the federal government. I don't really care about them. Like, it's like, I know that you have to follow them, but I don't view these as like a moral obligation. I just view this as like, okay, well, these are the rules. You have to follow the rules, right? So like, my viewpoint is like, then change the rules. You're going to shrink it by 80%? Yeah, they're not the 10 Commandments. This was not made by God. They created this. And I think also these people create these safety nets for themselves and this red tape to protect themselves.
The Transportation Department is leading by example. He put out a tweet indicating 5 things he did this last week. He said, Mr. President, here's the 5 things that terminated the NYC elitist anti-worker congestion pricing, launched an investigation into multi-billion-dollar taxpayer
I also
dollars.
wonder, like, how many of these people are like the ones that were celebrating, federal workers and people like this getting fired for not taking the COVID vaccine.
Wasted on high-speed
Literally
rail.
a few years ago.
He goes on to make his list, but we know that not everyone is joining in that capacity. Case in point, Kash Patel at the FBI and the Defense Department are saying that they are going to conduct their own evaluations.
Yeah, because they're dealing with sensitive confidential data. It's totally different than doing it at like another department, like the DMV. Like the DMV is totally different than the FBI, obviously. Like it makes complete sense.
That in any way show you that they're split in how to handle this, or are they backing up the president in just a different way?
The Epstein list? I'll watch something about that after this.
Yeah, look, they're backing up the president in a different way. And this was my point about miscommunication. I think you could have just as easily done this Doge effort of the 5 things while also having consulted with cabinet heads to do it in a way where they felt comfortable that any information that was being sent, that there wasn't classified information or sensitive information that was ending up with the wrong people. And that's a legitimate concern. And I think these are some teething problems.
It's really not in a lot of cases because doesn't the president have the congressional or like the presidential executive authority to declassify anything they want, basically? I mean, that's my understanding is that they do. Like, I mean, the president does have a lot of power. He has clearance. Yeah. So like, I mean, if he's okay with it, then it should happen.
That we're going to see in the beginning of Doge's efforts, which is it is this outside entity. You need that kind of distance, I think, away from some of these cabinet heads. But I think in some great big capacity, there has to be a little bit more coordination about how some of this rolls out.
Meanwhile, this is the take of one member of Congress, Democrat Amy Klobuchar. She went on The View earlier today, and she said this, she believes, is the real motivation behind Doge. Listen.
Oh boy, here we go.
Elon Musk, they're looking for money everywhere.
Yes.
And they are literally, costs are going up for you while they're giving the tax cuts to the rich friends.
Corporate profits.
And they're looking for money to do that. And if any worker right now is failing their probationary period in the United States government, it is Elon Musk. Okay, that's the guy. Because what he is doing.
I thought everybody was saying he didn't work for the government. Because there was this big controversy about is he a federal employee or not? And people said he didn't even work for the government. And so now we're acknowledging that he does. Well, I don't know what's going on here.
It is Elon Musk. Okay, that's the guy. Because what he is doing as an unelected,
it's probably unconstitutional,
billionaire is, yes, and that's why you're seeing all these lawsuits.
An unelected billionaire. Who do you think all these other heads are? Like, the entire cabinet isn't elected either. Like, it's such a retarded argument.
Reaction to that, Kim?
Yeah, they're certainly trying to find money, Sandra, but part of it is to pay for the
people that work at the government aren't elected.
$36 trillion in debt, a bunch of which came from Democrats spending through the roof over the past 4 years. There's a lot of good benefits this money can go to, rebuilding our military, et cetera. There are other priorities. To suggest that it's going simply to the rich there's no evidence of that, and there's certainly no policy in place for that to be the case.
Just want to end with what is coming out of this meeting. Again, we're going to have tape playback here for our viewers in a moment. On Ukraine, the president just said NATO is a good thing if done properly. He says they could end the war in Ukraine within weeks. On a Russia...
He said he's going to end it before he became president. That didn't happen. I'm not going to bet that until it happens.
Meeting, he said,
I mean, let's be honest, right?
He'd be willing to go to Moscow at an appropriate time, Kim. He says May 9 might be a little soon for a Moscow visit. Does not see the problem with sending European troops as peacemakers in Ukraine. And Macron weighed in saying we're ready to provide security guarantees to Ukraine.
Was the last time you saw a poor politician? That's a good question. Yep, it is. Didn't we just watch a CNN guy yesterday get mad at Doge for offering to give money at the population with the money they found? I'm confused. Are we giving it to the rich or not? There's no narrative against, like, the problem is that basically, I think that a lot of like media has taken a position that is just pretty much indefensible. A lot of people want to see the government audited, and a lot of people think the government is wasting money. Like, this is a extremely popular opinion that a lot of people have. And so them making these appeals to authority of like, oh, well, this is the policy that we have and this is a protocol that we have. Has it ever occurred to you that the problem that people have is these policies and these protocols that create endless red tape to prevent anything actually being done? Because I think that's the main issue that people have. And so them throwing their weight behind effectively keeping up a bunch of these jobs that are effectively garbage on life support, it's just not really a good idea. Show me the receipts? Yeah, exactly. Has it ever occurred to you it's all fake and smoke and mirrors and we don't know what the truth is going on? I don't know what the truth is, but I know what people do, and I know in every single organization and every group that I've ever been a part of, the longer that it exists, the more bloat it has. And so, like, you have something like this that's massively bloated, I think that there's probably a ton of money that's being wasted. I mean, I worked with the federal government, like, shortly, right? But, like, I can tell you when I worked there were tons of people that weren't doing their job. It was actually very common. It was more common that people were not performing than that people were.
Make sure we have deterrence. This was Mike Waltz this morning on expectations from Ukraine on a potential deal to end this war. Listen.
We expect the Ukrainians to realize the opportunity that this is, and President Zelensky to realize the opportunity that this is.
This is about the Ukraine shit. I'm not going to get into that because like that's a whole different topic. I just wanted to look at the Doge stuff. But yeah, anyway, their point is the president cannot make new government department officially without Congress creating it. You have to understand that your granular legal argument is not compelling to anybody other than lawyers. I personally don't care. I understand that the law has to be followed and you have to follow the law and you can't break the law. I get that. But for example, you can't just like not enforce a law because you don't agree with it. But there are a lot of laws that I don't agree with and I don't respect. Like, that's generally the way that I feel about a lot of things, right? Apparently this girl, Amanda, watches my stream. I would have never guessed that I had female viewers, but it seems like I do. And you've got somebody like this that's going and, you know, the one and only, yeah. What Elon Musk's war on federal workers owes to Gamergate? Doge owes everything to Gamergate. From its aesthetics to its tactics to its manpower, which draws you largely on the same young men, now 10 years older, who were radicalized to far right via social media. Gamergate, let's read some of this, like this article, bro, like, oh my God. Fascists have always been clowns, but it's 21st century innovation that they're so proud of their juvenile behavior. However, unfortunately, many in online journalism saw this coming a decade ago with the emergence of the dumbest social movement in American and probably world history, Gamergate. For those blissfully unaware, Gamergate was the first crowdsourced harassment campaign of the social media era. On its surface, it was a bunch of young gamers having a year-long tantrum because they didn't want women getting girl cooties on their video games. But for those of us who watched it closely this time, it was a troubling portend which turned out to be a full-blown fascist movement. That is the new word that everybody loves to use, is fascist. They love using that word nowadays. Can you briefly explain Gamergate? Yeah, there's this girl fucking a bunch of different dudes getting positive feedback for a game. People said this is fucked up. And then they started looking deeper into it, and they saw that there were a number of relationships that gaming journalists had with game companies that were non-ethical, and then people got mad about it. And some of them were about women who were abusing their sexual status in order to gain favors with it. And so this was then turned as being men hating women. And it's not really men hating women. It's men hating women whoring themselves out for positive feedback and then having it not be disclosed. That's really what happened. And, you know, it's sad to see, but unfortunately, you know, you have people like this that are revising things. And fascism is the new word. Yes, it is. It is the new words. And I'm in disbelief that people can call gamers fascist. The other, illiteracy. Well, of course it's illiterate. It's an article written on like one of these like old news sites, right? But man, this is fucking funny. And you know what? You want to know the funniest thing about it? The point that you shouldn't have touched our fucking video games. I love how this entire article is hinged on a tweet made by a person with a profile picture of a cat that has 88 likes. Like, this is like, for my main evidence, I present to you. Wait, and is that it? That's it. That's the only argument. That's it. That's the only reason that we have this opinion. Musk project isn't like Gamergate, but straightforwardly is Gamergate, comprised of many of the same people. Well, maybe it will be. And anyway, so what I find to be really funny about this is that I think that she's kind of right. I do. I think that she's right, and what ends up happening is that me is a good thing. Yeah, and you can read this here. This is no exaggeration. The whole campaign started first as a targeted harassment campaign of a female non-binary video game developer whose bitter ex-boyfriend riled up a mod against her, telling them that she had sex with lots of men. It soon spread to target other outspoken feminists, especially those who criticize video games, but the underpinning sexual jealousy was always present. It wasn't that she was having sex with other men. It was that the men were giving her favors because of the fact that they were having sex. And maybe not even because of, but that they weren't disclosing it. And then when it came out that they were, then they started complaining about it. So this is usually what people like this do, is they like making up bullshit and just lying. That's really what happens. They're lying. And if you go back and you look at what happened, you'll see that what I said is in fact what happened. And yeah, that and I would challenge anybody to go back and do that. Now, these people don't like having an investigation into the past. They don't like having people looking at the truth because it's going to prove them wrong. All you need to do is further educate yourself on the topic, and you'll see that my point of view is accurate. And again, I think that that can stand on its own. And so anyway, I'm curious if she uses the word slut shaming in this article. Well, I don't hate sluts. I think they're great. But the only problem is that if you're with one, you need to disclose it before you go and you talk about them positively. That's all. That's it. I mean, I feel like this is I'm a reasonable guy. I'm a real reasonable guy. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? W sluts. Yeah, exactly. Come on. How's that a bad thing? And also, if a girl wants to sleep around with a bunch of dudes, that's her option. She can do that. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it's great. But the problem is that you can't do that and then get favors from it and not say it. And so anyway, that's what I think. Yeah, what a freedom. Yeah, L, not an incel take. Yeah, sorry, guys. But anyway, I do think the fact is, though, I think this is true. I think that Gamergate was one of the first things that radicalized and mobilized a lot of young guys to be counter social justice and counter left-wing and leftist policies. It's because people like this went into video games and they were completely dishonest and like massively like oppressive. Like not oppressive as in like slavery, but like oppressive as in like you can't disagree with us. You can't have any other opinion other than our opinion. And that did radicalize a lot of people. It was a red pill moment for a lot of people. It absolutely was. Gamergate on Wikipedia. Gamergate parentheses harassment campaign. Yeah, was a loosely organized misogynistic online campaign motivated by right-wing backlash against feminism, diversity, and progressivism in video game culture. And so, yes, big surprise. This is why I don't really... This is not an accurate retelling of what happened. And it's a completely one-sided retelling of what happened. And I can almost guarantee that you probably can't edit this. And editing it in a way that's more nonpartisan would not be allowed. And that's the problem. Same with Yasuke. Yeah, this is why, I mean, like, I don't really, like, Wikipedia, I support the idea of Wikipedia, but I don't support Wikipedia. I don't, because they let things like this go through. And it's just a lie. And so if you're using your encyclopedia and your encyclopedia is a platform for lies, that obviously, I mean, Wikipedia very clearly, with a big topic like that, Wikipedia very clearly has made their viewpoint on this known at some point, right? It's not like this happened completely independently of the company. The company allowed this to happen. And so if the company's allowing this to happen, why the fuck would I support them? So yeah, Doge, I think, definitely did mobilize a lot of people. Like Gamergate mobilized a lot of people, and I think a lot of those same people are supporting Doge. They are. I think that the funny thing is that she's right, even though she's retarded.